This is the internet's favorite camera, and I've wanted one for over 10 years. Now that I finally have one, has it lived up to the hype? Hey, my name is Brian, and I've been a cinematographer for over 15 years. I'm excited to share my passion for technology and filmmaking with you on this new channel. So if you enjoy the content and want more, please hit like and subscribe. Now, the Fuji X100VI. From the outside, you might think a fixed lens camera would be a gimmicky one-trick pony. Yet, it's been sold out everywhere for months with no signs of stopping. I think the best cameras are the ones that inspire you, not just the ones with the best specs. It also turns out though, that this camera also has excellent specs. A 23mm f2.0 fixed lens, 40.2 megapixel sensor, and with video capabilities of up to 6.2K resolution, supporting f-log2, 10-bit 422 footage, and a max bitrate of 200 megabits per second. So I know that's a lot of numbers, but these are professional level specs for a tiny little camera that honestly fits in your pocket. So what makes the Fuji F100VI so appealing, and should you get one?
It looks great. I feel like it looks better than the X100V, but I don't know if that's just...
I think that what makes this camera truly inspiring to shoot are actually in its limitations. Constraints breed creativity by making you think outside the box. With a single 23mm lens, you're forced to push the boundaries in composition, perspective, and approach. Having fewer options means doing more with what you have. Instead of deliberating over lens choice, you have to be more deliberate in what you're shooting. And I think that this physical involvement creates a deeper emotional connection with the images. You really have to work to get your shots. Now, the Fujifilm camera simulations and color science are arguably the most sought after feature. While color science is becoming less crucial in 2025, thanks to high bitrate cameras and modern workflows and tools such as Filmatic AI Color Clone, this camera delivers excellent images straight out of the camera with minimal editing needed. And I really think that's how most people use it. For someone like me who lacks the time for photo editing, it's simply refreshing to shoot and share. This makes me shoot more than I would because I don't have to worry about editing every single photo. The images and pictures look amazing straight out of the camera. I'm sure I'm not alone, but there are times where I shoot hundreds of photos without them ever seeing the light of day, just because I don't want to have to go through every single photo now. Part of the charm is really that I treat it as a point-and-shoot camera. It goes without saying that the image quality is excellent. When I saw the full resolution images for the first time, I was genuinely blown away by how sharp and detailed some of the images were. Coming from an older Fuji X-E3, which is this guy over here, it was substantial how much better the image quality and sharpness was. The form factor is also a big selling point of this camera. While it's not the smallest or lightest camera available, it's discreet enough to take anywhere without drawing attention. The camera itself looks beautiful. I mean, it almost acts and functions as a fashion accessory. It really felt good to just sling it around my shoulder all day and walk around. I'm also a huge fan of how tactile the physical buttons are. Everything you need to be able to change is within a finger's reach without needing to look at the screen. You can change between shutter, ISO, and f-stop near instantly, which really helps when shooting street photography because you often need to be ready at a moment's notice. The addition of in-body image stabilization, improved autofocus, and f-log2 support made it worth the wait over the X100V. f-log2 is generally preferred over standard f-log because it supports a wider dynamic range gamma curve, and it follows the density of film negatives more closely, which also makes it useful for color grading. With my camera transforms that I create through Filmatic AI, it just gives me more information to work with when doing film emulations and matching to other cameras in the color grade. The in-body stabilization really makes a difference when shooting handheld, which is likely how I'll be shooting this camera 90% of the time. The improvement of the autofocus system over the X100V is also a very welcome change. While it's not as good as Sony's autofocus system in my opinion, it's still a huge upgrade. Since the X100VI's launch, Fujifilm even offered a firmware upgrade to further improve the autofocus, so there's still a chance in the future for more improvements. The addition of 6.2K video is certainly helpful when using digital zooms to compensate for the fixed lens. However, I found it odd that shooting 6.2K video comes at the cost of a 1.23 times crop factor, meaning you get less field of view. Effectively now, your 23mm lens is a 28mm lens. The same crop also applies when you shoot 4K HQ mode, which oversamples from the 6.2K resolution mode. I still haven't really figured out the difference between just shooting standard 4K and the oversampled 4K HQ mode, because honestly, they look pretty much the same, except you lose slightly less field of view when shooting 4K HQ mode. So one of my favorite features of the X100VI is actually the built-in 4-stop internal ND filter, which isn't new to this version of the X100, but it's still much appreciated, especially for shooting video. I do wish it were variable, however, because as it stands, it's just 4 stops or nothing. I did also notice that the camera drains batteries pretty quickly, so it's highly recommended that you have a couple spare batteries handy. Fortunately though, extra batteries are fairly cheap, and they use the same type of batteries as the previous models. And for a camera that boasts such incredible video capabilities, I wish that it was easier to move between photo mode and video mode instead of having to scroll through the drive menu between the different shooting modes to get from one to the other. That's probably one of my biggest complaints. However, I'm also probably the minority that likes to shoot video more than most. I should note that I don't think this is really a beginner's camera, and it probably shouldn't be your first and only camera. While it's quick and portable, it does demand a little bit more attention to master. One of the features that makes this camera stand out, say from the Fuji X-E3, is that it does have an optical viewfinder. The optical viewfinder might make it a challenge for those unfamiliar with manual exposure. There's of course a digital viewfinder that you could have in the eyepiece as well. So regarding its price point, this camera cost me almost $1,800 new. And with accessories, it easily exceeds over $1,800, so it is not a cheap camera. In my mind, this is still kind of a luxury camera because I still don't really recommend it if it's your one and only camera. And if you're coming from the X100V and looking to upgrade, I'm not quite sure it's worth it. If higher pixel resolution, better autofocus, image stabilization, and more video capabilities are important to you, then it could be a worthwhile investment. I actually can't really imagine what they could do in the next version of the X100VI line to make it even better. The best cameras are the ones that inspire you to go out and shoot. And to me, the Fujifilm X100VI is that camera. Thanks for watching.